of owning a cafe and other heroic deeds by Beware the Tristado, Chapter 124, Pros Night Out, Part 3. Nearly choking on his water, the other's snicker, more unnerving than reassuring, Shouta coughed and screwed the cap back onto his bottle. Now what was he supposed to do? He could deny that they were engaged, of course. He could get up and walk away. He could follow his oldest ward's example and tell him to fuck off, or douse him with the remainder of his drink. Todoroki Enji had certainly enjoyed that experience, hadn't he? Oh, so you all engaged? I haven't said anything. Aizawa-san, you don't need to. The photographer grinned whilst leaning away from him, his broad yet bony shoulders rolling mildly. I could tell it's written all over your face, he added before, to his continued surprise, Tokuda let out a small relieved chuckle. And as someone who considers himself to be an All Might fan, I'm incredibly glad. Feeling his eyebrows rise, he simply folded his arms and cocked a brow at him. He'd not been this belligerent since the first time he'd met Gran Torino at his cafe. I don't know, Neko, what he wouldn't give to be back there. But still. Oh, the strong silent type, eh? I respect that, the other mused with a cheeky grin. I think that's one of the reasons you complement each other so well. Do I need to add stalking to this harassment? He heard himself say, his tongue clipped. I'm not going to confirm or deny anything, and Aizawa, you misunderstand me, truly. Snorting, because really? Shouta felt his scowl strengthen. God, he'd only just sweetened his mood from the sourness his introverted nature had placed upon this event. How was he meant to smile and enjoy the evening with this hanging over him? Toshini's PR team was going to have conniptions, weren't they? You're incredibly protective of him, aren't you, Aizawa-san? The interloper mused, his tone fond as he turned his attention to the wall of screens filled with various shots of the celebrities and pros still sauntering down the red carpet amidst the catcalls, cheers, and squeals of fans in cosplay, all begging to have their autograph books signed. I think that's wonderful. No, really, you can doubt me all you like, he continued, a smooth laugh curling out of him. I don't know, I haven't been stalking you, per se, he admitted with a light shrug as people milled around them, the PR teams for pros snapping at staff, the staff running around to grab special orders. Just call me curious. As I've told you, and it isn't a lie, I am quite the all-mighter fan. Tokuda hummed to fill the pseudo-silence. Regardless of great photos of him paying for my humble home and travel expenses, I adore his philosophy, his manner, and how he so genuinely cares about people no matter their walk of life, he said, and despite his more rational judgment, he didn't get up, he didn't flag one of the security personnel, he just listened. About 2 years ago, I noticed a change. Yes, but why bore you with words when I could show you? Now let me see, here we go. The older man continued to muse conversationally, as though they were friends, just casually chewing the fat as he reached into a briefcase sat next to him, his long-fingered hands plucking a bound expensive A4 portfolio from his depths. Okay, it was somewhere around June that I first really noticed, he said, his hands opening the folder to show him the contents of the first page. They were all of All Might. They'd been dated. You see here, this is the tail end of April, then May, then June, the camera clerk man stated, whilst pointing from image to image while the secretary scampered around the booths he and the other plus ones had been housed, spoke to walkie-talkies, and marshaled their underlings like generals in an army. Can you see the difference? Sighing, he regarded the photos and felt his brow furrow a touch. The sparkle he was so used to seeing in the blonde's eyes, it wasn't there in April. But how did... When you stare at people for a living, you notice these things, Tokuda answered knowingly, his smile softening. I'd not seen that glint in those neon blues since his glory days at UA. It dropped again when he went to America, re-emerged for a time when he was here, and then poof, off it went again, he murmured. As an avid people-watcher, I'd recognize the difference between love and heartbreak rather quickly, and since in some media circles I'm considered a pretty big fish, even in some of the murkier ponds, I did what I could to stave off the tabloids. He shrugged. Wait. I figured it was the least I could do for the man who'd lay down his life at any given second, if it meant that others would live, especially since I didn't know the cause, but I was sure of one thing. I wanted to protect whatever had made him so genuinely glad. He nodded, those pianist fingers flipping over to show 2 pages dotted with photos. The Noraneko was in most of them.
Now, I'm sure as a lover of cats, I don't need to explain curiosity to you, Aizawa-san. He grinned, his dark eyes roving all over the images. I'm similarly certain that you must be told this all of the time, but you're an incredibly remarkable man, he praised. Not that I've dug intrusively into your background per se. However, for someone of your age to open and run such a successful business in that area of our fair city, well, you piqued my interest, he admitted freely. Given what I learned at first, I was surprised to see a symbol of peace frequent such a small establishment so frequently, but it wasn't until I noticed the pair of you together, his repeat orders of muffins notwithstanding. He smiled, his hands flipping another page. Luckily, there was nothing private on show. Then I finally understood. There were images of them for a distance, the camera having zoomed into the cafe from a number of angles. 4 of them were clearly inside the cafe, though. These weren't pictures that had been taken by them or members of their community, no. They showed quiet, easy-to-miss moments. Him watching Toshinori helping Denki with his homework, a soft smile he didn't know he was capable of, softening his features. Toshinori preening as he ruffled his hair whilst walking past with a tray of drinks, his expression thoroughly smitten, and this, he could tell by the date, was before they'd started dating. Before they'd stared down over one together. Love, sadly, is still something small and precious in this world, isn't it? The curly-haired man continued, another page turning to show them sharing a drink, sharing a meal, playing games with the kids. 2 more pages showed time passing by, different holidays, different seasons, the children growing and thriving, the teens becoming happier and more confident, their community burgeoning and developing, always expanding for the better. Then that simple yet lovely ring you're wearing appeared, didn't it? The same kind of ring that, if you zoom in on the 4th finger of his left hand, you can just make out the impression of underneath his glove, he said, his brows waggling in a way that he supposed was meant to be playful. So, he finally said, the final set of images displayed before him, the warm feelings of pleasure he'd been stupidly enjoying now freezing into an icy stone expanding in his gut. Is this the part where you name your price for all of this evidence, or where you tell me these are already on the way to any number of gossip columnists, or quis custodiet ipsos custodes, or rather, who protects the protectors? Who guards the guardians? Blinking as the other closed the expensive ebony leather-bound portfolio, Shouta felt his brows lifting when the photographer handed it to him, his smile easy and sincere. This is my promise to you, Aizawa-san, he said. It's also my pledge of fealty, in a way. You have captured and safeguarded the heart of a man who'd previously stood lonely and empty at the top of the world on some blinding pedestal where people like me and all of these good folks swarming around here like hornets stalk it. He sighed. We're like vultures, really. We're cycling him now, and most of us will be quite happy to pick at his bones when something topples him. Or at least that was my biggest fear until I saw you together. Spoke to some of those people who love you genuinely so much. He juggled. I'm not sure what you're getting at exactly, he replied, his face probably as bewildered as his tongue. Ah, forgive me, my wife says that I have a certain flair for dramatics. He snickered whilst placing a large, work-toughened hand upon the closed folder. So, to be direct, until such time that you and he want to announce your love to the world, and even if that day never comes, I will continue my efforts to mislead, redirect, and dupe my fellow vultures to ensure that you can enjoy your peace and privacy. All right? You. Also, should you need a photographer for your wedding, the privilege of being chosen would be enough for me, with no other fee added. Just saying. Hand in hand, thanks to Tomura's quirk-restricting gloves, the latest American movie, inspired by one of their favorite RPGs, even better than expected, Dobby walked proudly and happily away from the cinema, embedded in the Gracery Hotel, amidst a crowd of similarly laughing, chatting, and busily commuting people. People he used to scorn, used to envy.
They're bringing in a new director for the sequel. Do you think they're gonna butcher it?
Tokyo, he'd admit, was an interesting metropolis filled with amazing attractions, fun things to do, and excitement around every corner, but the pair of them now only 15 minutes away from the train station that'd take them back to Musutafu, he could hardly wait to get home. Home, where he and his partner, his fiancée, had the apartment to themselves.
I guess it depends on whether they stick to the source material and who they pick for the new leader of the Special Forces. If they pick a German actress, it'll be true to the comics, but I'd like to see that Hungarian woman get the role. She was great in that action thriller we took show to last year, wasn't she? And the rendering on the CGI was pretty smooth across the whole film, wasn't it? Someday, we are gonna make that kind of quality look like pictographs from the Stone Age. He smirked. His partner laughed, snorting and leaning into his side.
We are, huh?
He chuckled, those ruby eyes glinting in the mid-evening light of the crowded streets they were wandering down, starting to spark with neon frontages, white-lit signs, and 3D holographic anime characters calling potential customers inside.
Aren't you getting a little ahead of yourself there? We've not even started our degrees yet.
True, he cut in smoothly, whilst leaning in for a kiss. But you're forgetting how awesome we are, aren't you? Man, in just 3 years, we'll be on our way, and I'm pretty sure we'll have figured out a way to get Spinner and Hisashi-senpai on board too. He chuckled. The four of us going into business together has a certain appeal, don't you think? He winked, his tone playful, his eye lighter than it had been in years.
Hmm.
The decayed quirk user replied, his smile growing.
So, we'll be taking over the world then.
You know it, he snickered. The entertainment industry is big business, right? He chuckled. I figure we can cut ourselves a pretty sweet piece of the pie, you know, before we hit 25. He assured confidently, whilst his partner's eyes rolled in the same fond way they'd both picked up from their guardian.
It must be really nice to live in that wonderful world you've built up in your mind, Dachan.
You should know, you're the star attraction in there. He countered, his smile curling as the shorter man flushed the same garnet red as his eyes. Watch out! That villain's heading this way! Blinking their moment broken, the flame quirk user felt his head snapping towards a guy in one of the most ridiculous costumes he'd ever seen, running full tilt down the street they were on. The dick had a number of handbags streaming behind him as he seemingly slid his way down the road on a track of slime or mucus or something equally vile he was somehow producing from his wide silver glowing feet.
We can't use our quirks.
His fiancée warned. The pair of them stood directly in the line of the screeching, slick jellyman. Oh, you think we should do something because that pro's so far down the street? He breathed, his smirk tilting into something playful. That'd be pretty good out of us, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I kinda think it would.
Tomra shrugged as they loosened their stance and doggedly ignored the criminal's shout that he was going to fucking knock you out if they didn't get out of my fucking way, his arms flailing wildly to show that he was serious, despite him being in what looked like a stripy, light-dotted clown suit. I don't think his special move is going to work here, though, he shrugged. He's coming in pretty fast, isn't he? The pale-haired man nodded thoughtfully, whilst the hero so doggedly chasing the slimy prick similarly called for them to move before they got hurt.
If we time it just right, he'll probably skid into those dumpsters over there, won't he?
Chuckling, Dobby rolled his shoulders. All of those years calculating trick shots and ricochet trajectory in our favorite shoot-'em-up games is about to pay off, huh? He grinned.
That and getting our asses handed to us by show of the kids. Oh, which reminds me, I need to arrange a rematch with Naomasa.
The slightly younger shrugged as the squalling villain splurging gunge behind them, his noodle-like arms waving the bags he'd stolen like some kind of melee weapon. You still sour about him catching you off guard, huh? He chuckled, his right leg sticking out to bar the would-be thief's slippery path. What? No!
It was a punk move, and you know it.
Tomra grumbled, his left leg moving to bracket his... Then, just as they'd predicted, the brightly coloured buffoon was moving at a speed he couldn't hope to stop, his feet already committed to the line his greasy quirk had set for him. The second his legs connected with theirs, his velocity sent him careening into the ground, where he barrel-rolled along the road, his stolen bags flung to the ground before he slammed with a squeal into the overflowing dumpsters. Ouch, Dobby chuckled. He's gonna feel that in the morning. He furthered whilst they went about grabbing up the 10 or so purses that the definitely unconscious had pinched, the both of them barely registering the odd chatter of the other people gathered around them.
Kinda feel bad for the cops, though. Cleaning him up will be fun. Oh, and when the Smalls learn about this, we should definitely tell them we said plus ultra when we floored him and time how long they gushed for, okay?
His lover added as finally the pro hero reached them, his mouth agape as he smiled widely from inside a large, hugely pleased face, black mask, and yellow hoodie. Laughing at the idea, He found his other commentary cut off as a panting pro bounced into their personal space. "Holy smokes, you two! Which here school you attending, huh? That was incredible," he asked whilst gratefully taking the bags they collected. "No, sorry, you're barking up the wrong career tree there," he shrugged nonchalantly as the guy blinked at them. "We're just two students who work at a cafe part-time, and what we did was no big deal," he furthered, his voice lowering so as to mimic their guardian's usual candid monotone as he shrugged, his lover laugh snorting and lightly punching his shoulder. "Oh?" The man, fat gum, if he remembered Zuko's pro-anthology pages correctly, replied owlishly whilst cameras flashed all around them and a police car skittered into view, the crowd still amassing as he regarded them both, his eyes widening further. "Hey, wait, I know you two, don't I?" Finding it their turn to blink, even as the officers made their approach, Dobby looked to his fiancée in question before they looked back at him. You do?" "Heck yeah, I do," the rotund powerhouse grinned. "You're Sharnada's nephews, right?"